All right. Well, how's it hanging, everybody? Um, my name is Shawn. You guys know me, but what you don't know is this old gamer. So why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, bub?
Hey, Shawn, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, I'm a fellow. Well, we live in the same neck of the woods. I don't know if I should say the exact place, but pretty closely. We're basically neighbors, Shawn. It's unbelievable.
Pretty much, yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, I've been doing City Skylines stuff on YouTube for just about coming up on 3, 4 years. My profile is like my original YouTube profile. So it says started in 2014, but that was just me watching videos. So
Mhm.
I swear I'm getting more subscribers. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I play a lot of games. City Skylines is just one of them, and it's something that I got addicted to for a while, and really got into the first game, and it was more of a hobby than a game for me in a sense, and so yeah, I'm just really excited about this new era we're living in with City Skylines 2 just kicking off and all the things that come with that.
Yeah, it's almost like the Matrix is like shifted. You know what I mean? It's like a
Yes.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
kind of obtuse. I mean, a lot of people might actually beyond just City Skylines. They might know you from being Bon Bon's main co-host. You appear a lot on that, and then also you've had a really gigantic video blow up.
I did. I
Ginormous,
did.
ginormous.
John
Which
Norris.
which seen a lot of traction to your channel. So tell us a little bit about that. First of all, how'd that feel? Did it feel like a long awaited achievement? Or did it feel like the algorithm just the gods of the algorithm just kind of just slapped you on the ass? Good job. Like what how's that feel?
Well, it felt great. I was not prepared for it in a sense. So a lot of times, you spoke of Bon Bon. Me and Bon Bon kind of go way back. If you remember on What Map back in the day, he used to have on his little. I always call it the halftime part, but he'd have his factoids because of factoids or whatever he'd say,
Yeah,
and then yeah, at the end of that, he'd have that thing about an advertisement. Like, if you want to
yeah.
advertise for me? One day I emailed him because I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna give my channel a little bit of a boost and just see what. So I just bought a few ads from him and stuff, and then we got to talking, and I became a Patreon and all that, and made a connection there. So I started sending him videos. I'd send him videos, ideas, and when he saw that video, the original, performance predictions I made, he said, "Oh, this is great. It's going to be great. It's going to be huge." Blah blah blah. And on the first day that it came out, at the end of the day, it had 500 views. Now he says, we were texting that day, and he's like, "That's a big disappointment." I'm over here going, "Views."
Yeah, yeah.
But and now it's at 70 something.
1K, yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it felt great. I was glad. It did feel like a bit of an achievement. What I wasn't prepared for was the amount of comments and questions I got from people pertaining their own system. And I tried my best. I think I answered basically every single one of them the best I could. And if I didn't know the answer somewhat, I would do a little research for whoever this person was. So that I really enjoyed that. That was kind of fun, like interacting with the community and stuff like that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like one of those things that I noticed about that is like a lot of your videos, because I've got like your most recent airport build videos for City Skylines one, like they're so well edited, and
mm,
I can tell that you kind of take a little bit of pride in your editing. It's fun to create a video, and I'm that same way.
right,
But how does
yeah,
it like this that success has been just recently, and I've seen your channel for a long time, and I've seen you struggle. It's seen. Well,
hmm
I mean, it just looks that way for content wise. And I believe me, I've been around the block. I had a lot of failed channels, some okay ones, but it's and even with knowledge on like algorithm manipulation and all that kind of stuff, it seems like you're just
hmm
trying to put out the best content you possibly can and hope that something pops off, and it finally did. And you
right.
deserve the accolades for that. So congratulations
Oh,
for
thank
sure.
you. I appreciate that very much.
Well, I
Thank
mean,
you
it's
for the
hard for
kind
a
words.
content creator to like if you're not a content creator, guys, you don't understand like like views and stuff are like almost directly correlated to our dopamine and serotonin levels. You know what I mean? It's so bad, dude. It's so bad. Like right now, like some of my like I've been so hard into speculation and news for City Skylines that now these
Hmm.
gameplay videos I have are just it's a drop in the bucket of views I was getting. When you go from 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 20K views a video down to 200, 300,
Hmm.
sometimes you feel like you've done something wrong, but really it's just the algorithm. The algorithm
Hmm.
it just doesn't care sometimes. It's like you're a news speculation, even though it's like then you immediately changed your like you was like I'm making the bread and butter style of City Skylines content, and then out of nowhere you drop that video, which is very relevant for CS2, highly edited, very, 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 very well done. It's almost like perfectly timed too. Which I mean, I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but hey, it worked. And
Thank you. Yeah.
it's so hard to understand. That it sucks putting hours into a video for
Yep.
80 people to see it. You know what I mean? It's rough.
Yep. Yeah. I was actually kind of done making videos. So, like I
So what
mentioned on the
Said.
second.
Bonbon said that.
Yep. I was done, and I was gonna, because the thing was, from a time standpoint, I worked 50 hours a week basically, so it's like that I just didn't have time to put in the effort to make what I felt like was quality content, because my older videos, my downtown series, they used to all they had a lot of gaga, and looking back at them, when I watch them, I'm thinking like, holy cow, this intro is way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I used to have those commercials I did, and all that stuff took so long, not to mention you're using, mod recording type things in the game, and so many variables that go into that. And when I got the idea to make this video, I wanted to just basically say, I'm going to scrap everything that I've ever done, and I'm going to make, like, my first kind of incentive was I wanted to make this a little bit more YouTube-y of a video. So I wanted it to be very quick. And I went to school for, like, electronic media was what it was called at the time. It's basically broadcasting, but I did a whole lot of video editing. So
Yeah,
it's
you gotta
something
have
I've
some
always.
videography stuff, to even achieve that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 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 and so once I had that under my feet, I do enjoy, as you kindly said, like the editing part and stuff. I really enjoyed, but making like jump cuts was something that like pained me, because I hated making, and like this video has got a lot of jump cuts in it, but usually I have fades. It's
Yeah,
kind of like.
you make the old traditional movie style editing.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's what I always did with the first game. And it was very time consuming. And it also, because I always wanted a subject matter, and City Skylines kind of became that subject matter for making videos, because when you're not actually doing filming, you need something to work with as your material. So City Skylines became that, but it was just incredibly time consuming. So I kind of gave up, and then got the idea of this video, made it, and oh, what do you know? It's like I think I've gotten 350 subscribers or so since that, and I'm like, oh no, now what do I do? There's like 350 more people that are interested in the channel. Oh, I don't know where I go from here. So anyway,
Yeah, that's definitely that. Well, your follow up video did get like 8K views, which is pretty good
yeah,
because it's a
didn't
direct
do
follow up. I mean, it's not
right,
it obviously wasn't going to do it. It would be an anomaly if it
right,
did better than the.
exactly.
So
Hmm.
that's actually pretty cool. That means you retain some of the algorithm out of those people who subscribed. Those people watched that video, and then out of all the people that video got sent out to, some of those people realized, oh, this guy made a follow up video, and it was like a week later or something like that, wasn't it? Something like that. It was a while after your
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
So
It
that
was.
so
Yep.
that's good. That means you had some algorithmic. Now, if that's waned over time, I don't know. Or if stopping and taking a break in between seems to work
Yeah.
really well for like Cody the Kodiak. He'll take like a week and a half off and then make a banger. Whereas I'm struggling. I'm trying to make bangers every fucking day because I'm the old style.
Right.
Because I grew up with YouTube, so I'm like the old style. Like, oh, I need to make a video every day. It needs to be over 10 minutes, and it needs,
Yep.
all this kind of shit. But really, they've took a lot of that stuff out of the algorithm. Like a lot of stuff matters, but doesn't matter as much as the timing, the trend, the search. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All that crap is like it is crap, mind you, but It's like because it gets away from like this is a quality video and the video should do well on its own merit. It shouldn't be constrained to like timing. Of course, has a thing to do with trends and stuff like that, but it shouldn't be relegated to that. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if you made a brand new channel and you had the same level of content, same level of editing, same level of everything for I don't know Diablo 4, whatever the game might be, or not even a game. Let's I fiddle with wood in my shed and I record it. Plenty of those types
Mhm.
of channels. Like
Right.
it, like what they did, what YouTube encourages a trend like trends, and so if you don't follow the trend, even though your video's so well produced, it falls flat with the algorithm, which is a shame nowadays. It was a shame nowadays. It's so fickle, I guess I could say.
Yeah. Yeah, and YouTube, like a lot of the videos and tutorials you watch, and when you like do research for like how to make your channel better, like one thing you read a lot about is having like a unique subject matter that those algorithms can pick up in a sense that somebody's looking for something specific. Um, and what's crazy about YouTube in general, and even breaking down to City Skylines, is there are so many content creators. Like I'll discover new ones just randomly. Like, how did I not know about this person?
Yeah, yeah.
You
Has
know,
3K
and
subs or some stuff like that. Like
yeah,
making content every
exactly.
day. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, and it's like, how did I not know about this person? But yeah, I mean, timing does have a lot to do with it. And one thing that kind of got me to think about making this video or the should you upgrade was basically just that all the Sea Skylines videos I was seeing out there really didn't see anything that had to do with like the technical side of it. And I've been building computers for 25 years, and it's the nerdiest thing that I know in my life. Like, I didn't grow up with comic. I was a big wrestling fan growing
Yeah,
up,
me
but like I
too.
wasn't I wasn't a huge Star Wars guy and all this. Computer building and all that is definitely my nerd thing. But yeah, so I didn't notice that there was many videos like that, and I was thinking, well, this might fill, as I was reading, it might fill that niche of maybe somebody will look for this. And then another thing I don't normally do is I made a very, in my professional opinion, hokey thumbnail that featured my own mug on it, which I do not like. It's like I always, me and my buddies always like, look at all these YouTube thumbnails are so ridiculous, and
Yeah,
it's
and
like,
they're
well,
like,
you're right.
"Oh, wow," that kind of face. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly,
It
and it's
worked though,
like,
dude, and big bold arrows. Like,
mm-hmm.
dude, I'm so bad
Yes,
on the
yes.
arrows.
Well, I'll tell you what, you've probably got, if nothing else, Sean, the best thumbnails in all of City Skylines, I would say.
Do you really think so?
Dude, I tell you this much, I always want to click on them. I always want to, because I'm just like, what is this? Like
Uh,
it's got my curiosity,
Provokes the question.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's better in a lot of ways. Like, man, the the thumbnail, that in itself is kind of like an art. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you've got you've got to be so particular on every little, even though a lot of them, when you look at a thumbnail, you're like, that's very simple when you see some other, like whoever out there. But like there are little things that add up to um, big results and making a more professional looking one. And all those things, it's just crazy how much goes into having a successful channel and having videos blow up. My next closest video to that video in about a 3 year time, I think still has like, it's at like 4,000 views.
Yeah.
So, and it's like a tutorial thing or whatever. So it's just, it's crazy how it works.
Yeah, man. And uh, I want to get. You said something. I want to get back to something. So you're a big wrestling fan, right? Not to get too
Um,
far off on a tangent, but
humongous.
humongous. So I'm assuming WWF, WWE, American
Yes.
wrestling, WCW type stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
Yep.
okay, okay, okay. So what do you feel about like wrestling from? You're probably a little bit older than me, but still wrestling from our day compared to like the new stuff now. Because I watch some of these people, like I watch like WWE on my other channel that because I have separate channels, So my other channel that's my personal thing for consuming content. Um, there was like WWE. They had like we're remembering the top superstars, of yesterday, and they were all young people that I have never seen before. You know, because I don't watch it anymore. I'm not like on top of it anymore. You know, um,
Right.
uh, but you know, I was grew up in the Attitude Era, so I was
Hmm.
spoiled for good wrestling. You know,
Oh
and
yes.
and dude, like, what is your take on like the state of wrestling today?
I mean, I think it's completely shifted its position on what matters to make it financially sound, which drives so much of the product itself. So WWE, they're not sweating. They don't sweat little things when they make mistakes. I mean, they are billion-dollar publicly traded, and now they've combined with UFC. So the biggest difference to me is how back in the day, 1997 WrestleMania, they were calculating how many pay-per-view sales they had that night. Let's say they sold 300,000 pay-per-views at $50 a piece. Wow, big win, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're so Fox is SmackDown is on Fox. It's about to be the lease is about to be up next year. They're going to they've already signed a deal with Universal. They're going to have SmackDown on USA, and it's like a $2.1 billion deal. So you compare that to hoping to get 300,000 pay-per-view buys. So point being is that's what drives the product. And the product, I think overall, WWE does a really great job of producing their programs. So there's less emphasis on these larger than life figures out there. And, back in my day and your day, these guys they were all on steroids for the most part. Like
Oh yeah, man,
when I was,
Hulkamania was running wild, baby. Come on.
yeah, it was. So were the syringes. So it's like, but nowadays these guys are way smaller because, and I think there probably is a little bit of that still, but they find other ways to do it. But it's not nothing like it is. Like you see these guys, and you're like, you compare him to somebody 30 years ago, and it's nothing. It's like, completely different looking people. But I mean, I enjoy it. I follow it. I don't watch the shows every week like I did, same time that you probably did. Um, but I keep up through like social media and stuff like that. Earlier this year, I checked the last thing off my bucket list. I went to SmackDown at Madison Square Garden, and that was probably the highlight of my life, wrestling life, maybe just life.
Do you not have any kids?
Negative.
Okay, okay, I'm about to call your wife and
Yep.
chastise you, bro.
That makes it easy to spend a lot
That
of money
does,
on
that
stuff
makes it,
like
yeah,
that.
that makes it so much easier. I feel you. I feel you. I feel you. Well, like, dude, I was such a, this is City Skylines 2 podcast, I know, but a lot of times we get off a tangent. This is one of those tangents because, man, dude, the wrestling today is just nothing like it was, dude. Whenever I was a child watching Mankind being thrown from the Hell in a Cell, I
Hmm.
was a child. You
Hmm.
imagine, dude. Imagine, like, that's who I want to be when I grow up. And like, we had the Coliseum around in my town, and like Mean Mark Callison, who is now the Undertaker,
Yep.
came from this area, stuff like that. I don't know how far back you go, but Bill Dundee.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so it will blow your mind. My family was friends with their family.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
for the longest time. Jamie Dundee, their fuck up son,
Hmm.
still lives in our town. He owes my dad like $500. like, and he
Calling
got
you out.
yeah, yeah, Jamie, come on, dude. No, he literally yeah, he got offered to go to like Sabu Sandman was trying to restart ECW in Philly a few years back,
Hmm.
and he got offered to do that, but again he couldn't. The drug use in the community is just so prevalent. I mean, there's a
Hmm.
lot of reason why. Like, there's a reason why Dave Batista is still as big as he is, but he does no longer wrestle. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
there's just a reason for that. A lot of people are unwilling to change. And there's been a lot of interviews with like wrestlers like we've had to change over time. What they're talking about is illegal and legal drug use and all this kind of stuff, and all that. But yeah,
Right.
I was literally brought up into that environment. Like, I used to go with my dad, and we'd help build like rings and stuff like that, and jump on 'em like little kids, have fun. But I didn't really understand that these people were like early entrepreneurs trying to get something going. You know what I mean? I just didn't
Yeah.
understand any of that, and I have such a reverence for it now as I'm older. I'm like, man, if I really, if I just hung out with those kids more, you know what I mean? If I, or whatever, it's like maybe I could have rode their coattails or something. I don't know, but it's just, yeah, I'm just so glad you said that because it's not. I mean, wrestling is like there's wrestling's a big community, but it never really crosses over to anything else. You know, it's like either you're a wrestling
Right.
fan or people are just like that's fake. But it's like
Yeah.
it's like you
Yep.
look like yes they pull their punches and they all that, yes it is choreographed and all that, but I'm telling you, you jump off a ladder onto a 1/4 inch mat, it's going to hurt.
Yep.
It's
It
going to hurt.
does.
It's going to hurt. But it doesn't
Yep.
necessarily mean that they're actually beating the fuck out of each other, but they are hurting each other.
Yeah. No, falling down in a wrestling ring, I mean, even something as simple as just, taking a simple back bump is
Hmm.
it's not it is an art form. It's not easy to do. I've actually been I've been in the ring. I actually was a ring announcer for about 4 years.
That's cool.
When I was in college, so I got to meet a lot of wrestlers. Two of which made it big. One's in the WWE and one's in AEW. But they tried to teach me one time how to like properly fall down,
Yeah,
for
fall
lack of a
flat
better
on your
term.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, and dude, both times, like, so the first time I fell, I'm seeing stars, and I'm thinking, well, I guess I really screwed that up because I'm seeing stars. And then I did it again, and I was seeing more stars, and I was like, okay, so maybe this isn't for me, So, but yeah, so I got to do that. It was kind of along the same time I was doing the broadcasting stuff and all that, and but you're right though. It's one extreme or the other. It's like it's fake or somebody loves it, and it's
Yeah.
just usually kind of like you're saying. Like you just kind of you start watching it as a kid. I started watching it when I was 7 years old, and you know I can remember the first show I ever watched, and like Hulk Hogan was getting beat up, and I was so concerned. My mom had to like fill me in on it, and I was like, "No, you're not right. It's not." So
Dude, I remember my very
yeah.
first match too. I was an infant. I was young. I was toddler, and it was Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon, the ladder match.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, dude, that was wild. I was hooked from that point on, dude. Me and my
Well,
cousins doing wrestling matches on each other's, like different stuff.
sadly, now I know exactly how old you are. That's how big of a mark I am.
I'm probably still a baby compared, but
Hey,
I
so
mean,
this, you said you grew up in the Attitude Era. I mean, were you a Stone Cold Steve Austin fan?
oh yeah, I mean, my all-time favorite was Shawn Michaels because of that first match I seen. But and he's still my all-time.
So,
Heartbreak Kid's still
so
all-time. But Stone Cold, yeah, or The Rock, all that.
you
Hated
were,
John Cena
you're
though.
not, yeah, a lot of people still do. You know, I can't believe that you haven't changed the official sign off to because Sean Build says so.
And that's the bottom line. That would be hilarious. I'd probably get some copyright infringement.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll get a
And
little.
Sean 316. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, let's get back to City Skylines.
Oh yeah.
What? Because we could probably talk forever about wrestling.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
what is I guess your favorite and least favorite thing about City Skylines 2?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm gosh, I'm still at Madison Square Garden in my mind. Let me get back to City
I know,
Skylines.
man. I know.
No, I think no. My favorite thing about it is probably just how simple and like clean the road tools are, and kind of like the UI in general, the user interface in general is very clean, and that part has like a very crisp new feel, and like to me, my like if I had a wow moment so far, and this is why Road Tools is probably my favorite thing about the game, is just making an interstate interchange for the first time on there, and the roads were just like connecting like perfectly, and then just automatically like the lines are right. It's got the speed limit on the road and different details that we
Stuff
never.
you would have to take 2 hours using assets and mods to do.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that definitely is my. I think the road tools and how easy and intuitive they are is probably my favorite thing about the game. On the flip side of the coin, I'd probably say I I'm struggling with the constant terraforming.
Mm.
Um, Having to get the house like because I guess because I did so much detailing on City Skylines 1, it pains me to see rickety looking backyards and the greenhouse falling over on a stilt and the chairs and the back dumpster of a store and it's up on a hill. Those things bother me. I'm starting to kind of figure out how to work around it, but like that's been the most frustrating thing to me because yeah, I don't know. The terraforming I think is easier overall, but I don't want to constantly do it. Like I want to
Hmm.
just like how hard would it have been to put in, and I know this is going to happen with Move It and stuff, but like how hard would it have been to just put in something where you could click on something and raise it or lower it,
Or not even that.
or
Just like if I was to zone something and when the asset pops up and it's built, it pre-flattens its area just like a CS1.
yes, yeah,
How hard
exactly.
would that? How like there's a lot of little things like that. When I play the game, I'm like, why didn't they just carry that over? Why didn't they just what was wrong with it to where you would have to take that out?
Right,
So
right. And I know that the game is based on like a newer version of Unity and stuff like that, but you would think a newer version of Unity is going to improve on the older ones and stuff. So you would think that we wouldn't lose some of the things we might have lost on from the first game, and that it would only have gotten better overall. But as we know, there's been all sorts of issues with the game so far, especially from a performance standpoint. But yeah, I think that kind of just other than that, really though, I think overall I've been having fun playing the game. Like I don't really have. I probably got more positives than negatives.
yeah.
But you know, it's it is a definitely an adjustment anytime you play a new game, especially a city builder. If you're somebody who loves city builders and you've put so many hours into one, going to another one,
It's
just go
tough,
like
yeah.
going from yeah, exactly. When I was a huge SimCity 4 player, so when I first played City Skylines, I was like, I don't know about this. So, anyways, I mean, what about you? Like, do you think there's more positives than negatives?
Oh yeah. I think that honestly they undersold the game. I'm getting a little bit of that audio again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just so you know. But no, just I think that they undersold the game a lot. Like for example, like with all the dev diaries and stuff like that, like
Mm-hmm.
they were so vague, and some of these dev diaries are 2 3 minutes long, and like
Mm-hmm.
and they talk a lot about transparency and all that kind of stuff. You know, the I feel like they didn't really sell the game. Like the game sold itself based off its City Skylines moniker, but they didn't really go hard in on why these things are better, why we made these changes. They kind of undersold them. They just kind of put it out in the ether and let it go instead of instead of just being like, this is the reason why we made this change. They presented it as this is how it is now, but they didn't ever tell you why it's better. Then you have to get into the game and realize, oh, this functions a lot better. I like the way they did this. But for a month and a half, I was very concerned if this was going to even work right. It's
Right.
so that I think there are the game even with performance, dude. Like I have a AMD RX 580, and I think it's at the last stage of its life. I think they're going to stop because Warzone I was playing earlier. They needed me to have an upgraded version, like a 10.19.2 or something. I have like a 10.9 point, but it's the highest I can upgrade. It won't let me upgrade it anymore, which I just need to get a new GPU. But it runs City Skylines even on high settings. I just got to disable a couple things and work. And of course, the frames aren't the best, but 23 frames for a low end mid tier PC on a game that is saying you need a NASA level computer to run it is really not that bad. So they undersold themselves everywhere. which is
Mhm.
a good thing and a bad thing because you get into the game, you're like, oh, this ain't so bad. I mean, I can work with this a little bit, you know. I mean, cities over 20,000 or whatever, kind of a little rough, but whatever. I can work with this. I can make content with this. I can play this game. You don't have to rush out and spend 2K on a computer or whatever. You know, I'm fine with that. But they never really they made it seem so bad, and also content creators made it seem so bad too. But we only reported on what they told us. You know, so
Right.
so this whole the worst thing about Cities Skylines 2 was their botched release. It was an utter botched release. It was not good. It was not like thankfully the game isn't as bad as it was made out to be. There is still a lot of things I think needs to be worked on. I think they are going to work on them. We know that city. I have a train coming through my town. I apologize, but I so there's a lot of things and that they didn't really sell. That's the only way I could say it. It's like there's a lot of things that work really well in that game that work better that are upgrades. A lot of things they didn't take out stuff like that. But I know because of City Skylines when they're going to work on this game for a very long time. You know.
Yep.
But the problem with all that is they sold it as the most realistic build, and then like your stream the other day, you zoom in on these people doing yoga, and it's just like a yeah,
It
like a, you
ain't
know,
yoga.
yeah, they're doing something, you know, and I think they should get a room or something. I don't know, but something's happening, you know. Like there's a lot of things that obviously need to be worked on, and they say there's so many good things about that game, and they just didn't really tell us how good these things are comparatively. Like they could have easily took Dev Dyers and be like, remember this in City Skylines 1? Well, this is how this works now, right? They could have
Mhm.
easily done that. Like these are very well, highly produced videos. They're probably made a month in advance with beta gameplay. Like they could have easily at any point in time been like, look, remember the snow map and how nothing changes? Well, look at it now. Haha, you know, like this is so much
Mhm.
different instead of just saying that, hey, you have seasons now. That's cool, and I can see the seasons in the game, but how does it compare to what we had previously? And why did you make that change? They never came into that. And then they botched the release. Um, and then that's really about it. I mean, also, I mean, a lot of City Skylines. There's a lot of people who think Colossal Order or Paradox can never do any wrong. You know what I mean? And then there's also people who are just like, how dare they not add bicycles? You know, so so there's like there's very little middle ground. I feel like there's a lot of gamers who are middle ground, but none of them are very vocal because nobody really gives that much of a shit. You know,
Right. Right.
right? But there's a lot of people who are just like. You don't understand what it's like to develop. Yes, it is. I've developed games before. I do understand. You know what I mean? Like I do. I get
Yeah.
it. Like I understand how hard. But you know, the thing is, they talk about transparency. You can't 2-3 weeks before the game comes out say, "Hey, we're being transparent. The game's not ready." No, that's what you do at the start. You know what I mean? You do that at the start, and that's being transparent. You know,
Yeah.
that's what you. If you say you're transparent after the fact, you're not really being transparent. You're trying to save face, which is I like. Look, they try to do the best they can. You know, trying to be honest. Maybe they thought they could. You know, they're working behind the scenes. You know, maybe they're breaking their fingers on their keyboard trying to get this stuff fixed. But and maybe a lot of it's a paradox thing. We're pushing this date. You got to get this stuff done. But if anybody has ever signed a contract, you know you have to sign this contract. You have to sign the contract. So there's a agreement between Paradox and Colossal Order because they are separate companies, even though they are parent, child companies, stuff like that. There's still an agreement. Like they have Paradox has
Mhm.
to come to you and say, "Hey, do you think you can make this within this certain amount of time?" And if they say yes, that's on them. People don't understand that, you know. Now they
Right.
can also say we have to have it out by this date, but also they're very well able to look at Paradox like, hey, the game's not ready. We need to push this back. And then at the very last second, Paradox allows them to do that, right? And they have this whole PR thing and all that. And so, are you being transparent? That's the most worst thing I can't stand about Cities Skylines 2 is the botched release with them saying they're transparent while not being transparent, and they could have just showcased the good things about the game a long time ago instead of just putting out it in the ether and then riding on the coattails of their former success from their predecessor. But all of that, everything I just said aside, the game is so much better than everybody thought it was going to be. And console players who are watching this or listening to this, whatever, you will understand, especially on like a console. Like the games, the rig will run on a console, so you won't have to worry too much. Like PC users have to worry about every little intricate part of their computer to make sure that this game runs the best you want it to. Um, I might have to buy a $400 GPU. I might have to go out and get a CPU. I might have to. There's a lot of things I might have to do with that. This might be a thing I have to do. Console players, you already have your console. You already have it, and you don't have to do anything but
Mhm.
put the disc in. And that's going to be love. And now if they're going to get um, mods in some form, which I don't buy the whole. Let me flip a question on you. What is this whole Paradox mod thing? Why do you think it was necessary for them to completely axe Steam? Because, well, we want to make sure everybody can have mods. Well, you could also just have mods on Paradox without having to take away Steam. Both things can be true at the same time. I personally think they're just trying to grab up that market share of out of game accessories, everything that comes with a game outside of its vanilla function, right? So mods, assets, DSLL, whatever, all this different kind of stuff that happens outside of a game. I think they're trying to corner the market share because if you think about it, Steam has been the backbone of City Skylines for years, like years, like for a while, up until some of these later DLCs and stuff like that. For a while, there wasn't a thing that the DLC could give you that a modder couldn't on Steam,
Right.
and I think what they do now is they get rid of Steam. They get the market now that it's such a huge community. They divert as much as they can to their own market share. They not necessarily will monetize it or anything like that. That doesn't necessarily have to be a thing, But it's easier for them to pay mods and make sure all this stuff happens the way they want it to happen under their watch, effectively making it a gatekeep thing. Because what you could do previously is me or you could have a city that we're building, and we can approach a modder, Bloody Penguin, whoever, and be like, "Hey, would you mind if I paid you to make these billboards for me, these specific assets that fit my theme in my city, right?" And they're like, "Sure, no problem. Here's the price. Here's how long it'll take, and I'll put you on a list, and it might take a little while, whatever the case may be for that particular modder, right?" Okay, cool. Now you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. Every modder who's going to be working on Paradox is going to be licensed with Paradox. They're going to be having to have NDAs and contracts and all that. Sure, they'll allow you to make mods and stuff like that, but I feel like there's going to be a gatekeep where they're going to say, a Biffa, City Planner Plays, $2.20. Anybody, these can just reach out to one of our sponsored mods and get that overnight, right?
Hmm.
Whereas we might have to beg and plead and ask, and certain modders may be prevented from making certain things. I feel like that's what's
Yep.
going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm kind of depressed about that. I'll be honest.
Yeah. It's about control. I mean, I think they want more control over that aspect of the game. And to answer your question, I don't think it was necessary to take it off of Steam. And it does hurt the amount of, I think overall, it's going to hurt the amount of creators that have brought all those wonderful mods and assets. I mean, another part of that to me is like, how are the assets going to work? Uh, are they going to work the same way? Because if you've got control over the mods and stuff, then are we going to lose the license? So can we still have a McDonald's on our maps and
Mm-hmm.
things like that? Like,
Yeah.
how in depth is their Overwatch going to be? Um, but I think there might be some pluses in there from the aspect of maybe we will no longer have a game breaking mod because these mods are going to be quality checked before they are released or updated.
Yeah.
Um, that's a possibility of something that could be a good thing coming out of it. But like overall, I feel like no, it wasn't. I was bummed out about it too, and I did look at it from an aspect more so of anything of just them having control and it coming down to the almighty dollar in some aspects.
Yeah, because I just don't know. But they're saying that it's going to be free and stuff, so I don't know how much how that's going to. I just think that they're trying to make their marketplace solidified, their mod feature
Mhm.
solidified. They're trying to make it. They are. It's all about control, and the whole thing is though. It's like, man, the game. It's just mods are so much better when it's laissez faire. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
just so much better. I mean, like you said with like the McDonald's stuff like that. But but who's going to be the arbiter of what's okay and what's not? That's another thing. They're saying they're being transparent, but they don't. They're not. There's not a guideline for, hey,
Right.
for you future modders who aren't part of our program right now. This are the guidelines you will probably have to follow to make sure this. But then,
Right.
so then like you send in your McDonald's that you've made, you know, and they reject it for some weird reason that they're not going to tell you about. You know, I mean, we rejected this. This isn't good enough or whatever, or it doesn't meet our specs requirements. When really it's just we don't want to get infringed. You know,
Right.
but you know,
Right.
and so I wonder how much of that is going to. I feel like a lot. I feel like a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100
Yeah.
percent.
And kind of going back to something you said earlier about the botched release. I think a big part of that was too. And look, I get the transparency thing, and they're saying this not optimized um, the way that we were hoping, or it's not going to run the way we were hoping, benchmarks and all that.
Mm-hmm.
When they said that, I thought to myself, they literally just took what, $100,000 and threw it in a burn pile,
Yeah, if not
because
more.
yeah, you immediately lost a ton. I had multiple comments on the upgrade video, just saying I've canceled my pre-order. And so, like, at the end of the day, the reasoning behind it and all that kind of stuff, I gotta like somewhat tip the hat to say, in a sense, that it's like they knew when they did that it was going to be a financial loss. And for whatever the reason is, I mean, they wanted to get that information out, and the reason the reason the game's not performing the way that they were hoping is up for debate. But it seems like, and another thing with the release, the embargo was lifted, and then all the reviews were posted. So immediately you had IGN and PC Gamer and all these reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I saw a review later on, like a day later, and I guess they had pushed a patch out, and that reviewer was like, "Oh, it's running great." Well, then, but the first review I read was like, "This is one of the worst performance games
And that
optimization
might have been
I've
true at
ever
the moment
seen."
too. You know.
What's that?
And then what they said that like they're saying it was the worst. Like at that moment, it could have been true. You know.
Right. And
Yeah.
then the next, and they screwed up whatever patch that was. They should have been, I would have been working 48 hours straight to get that patch up before you get PC
Yes.
Gamer and IGN's reviews. Those were the two
Dude,
big
I would
ones
have had
for.
that done before I sent it out to all these larger creators to make videos.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Right.
oh, to be a fly on the wall. That's what pains me so much is because like it's just for the love I have for this game. I feel like I am an uncle watching a child get beat by their parents. You know what I mean? That's what I feel like I can't step in. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I feel like is happening. I feel like they're just smacking my nephew around that I love so much, and they're just like look, hey, we're transparent. But no, you're transparent when it's convenient for you. It's convenient for you to be
Mm-hmm.
transparent now. You did not tell us 2 months ago that, hey, just so you guys know, there might be some issues with some performance. We're getting that worked on ahead of time, just so you guys know, months in advance.
Mm-hmm.
That way, everybody could be like, okay, let's put some like they. I have a like my video of what happened to City Skylines 2. I don't know if you watched that, but I was so afraid
Yep.
that I wasn't going to be able to run the game. You know, because they made it seem as though like my PC is below the minimum requirements. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I was definitely afraid. I'm like, and so the title was "What Happened to City Skylines 2?" Like, what went wrong? You know, they say multiple
Right.
times they're being transparent, but there really is no transparency until it's all too late, and at that point, it
Right.
helps nobody. You know,
Yeah.
so
And I agree that they made it sound worse than it is. I mean, without question. And I think a wide variety of systems are getting pretty good results overall. And I think that it'll continue. to get better, and they're going to have to find ways to opt because you've got two different architectures between Radeon AMD cards and NVIDIA
Yeah.
cards. And this game is heavy on the graphics, heavy on your GPU. So they're going to have to not only make sure that it's running good on NVIDIA, but that it's running good on the Radeon cards. There's a lot of games coming out. Don't know how much you keep up with general, but like Starfield, it runs way better on Radeon than it does NVIDIA. And it's like, why? Like, there's got to
Yeah.
be under the table money being exchanged because that
That
makes no
that
sense.
or there's trade secrets. There's we've discovered this way to make this microchip work a lot smoother than anybody
Right.
else's. So that could also be a thing. But
Yep.
it's just crazy that it happened all the way it did. And the game. By the way, Starfield runs great on my computer. It runs great. So it's like so the whole thing is like, do they not have like an optimization team? Like, where's the optimization roadmap going forward? That you speak a lot about transparency.
Yeah.
Like, let us know what's happening. If you're being
Mhm.
transparent, then be completely clear. you know,
Yep.
clear,
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
through all the way.
Quality check your transparency at the end of the day and make sure that it's right. Yeah, because it's just it is dumbfounding in a lot of ways how this whole thing is shaped out. But you're right though. I think those dev diaries were too much about the features and not enough about like you said, comparing generation one to generation two of City Skylines.
Hmm.
And really getting those things out there in front of everybody. And you could notice in some of those dev diaries there was definitely some frame rate issues, but you didn't get that artifacting and that level of
Hmm.
detail glitching that a lot of people are seeing.
The
And that's the main
anti-aliasing,
thing that I
yeah.
see. So,
Yeah, dude, the visual tearing lag was just so. It's still kind of horrid. Like, there's certain swing your camera certain ways, like certain jagged lines on buildings. It's just weird, man. Now, of course,
mhm,
I don't have the best PC, so I don't expect it to be. I expect some of that weirdness, but I expect it to be so much worse. And I'm thankful. I really am thankful for that. And there's a lot of great stuff in this game. So much good stuff in this game. Yeah, but it's really what it boils down to is whenever you guys were like showcasing all this to us, why wasn't it like here? Okay, here's what we did. Okay, scratch that. Tell us why you did. You know?
mhm,
Yeah, like it's
mhm,
cool that you did that, but why did you do that? And
mhm.
and then they are so like there was a for the longest time on Twitter there was a lot of ambiguous copy and paste responses, which larger companies I get that. You get so many people all the time, but it was like it was always a question that they didn't want to answer. Yeah, it was always like, sorry, we missed your thing. We wasn't trying to ignore you. Thank you for your question, and they never give an answer. Like it was a copy paste response every time, and like on
Right,
on like specific questions like with frame rate and consoles and blah blah blah. Like, why have we not seen no console gameplay yet? We still haven't.
mm-mm,
So the whole thing is like, man, and then when they said something about transparency, like, dude, my Discord was on fire. They were so mad because it's like they're not. It's obviously not being. It's saving face, but like I to the point where they had to have lost so much money, man, because
mhm.
and it sucks for them because I want them to be so successful that way our game is constantly successful. I want the best
Right,
for them. And sometimes I go a little like here recently. I used to be like staunch defender, but now here recently I've been a little more critical because you got to criticize the things you love to make them better. You got
yep,
to. That's just a general rule of thumb in anything in the world. You have to criticize it to make it better. This reason why America has a constitution. You have to criticize your government to make it better. You have to criticize your
right,
game to make it better. You have to criticize your cooking skills to get better food. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it's all throughout life. You have to criticize things and make it better. And you know, I had a kid in my call me in Discord one time. I don't know if he's probably a grown ass man. Really, he sounded like a grown ass man. I say kid because just the way he was acting. But um, he went out, dude, and bought a $1,500 PC just for the game based off the previous specs, right?
Mhm.
And then he maxed out his credit card, you know, um, because he loves the game. He wanted to be able to play it. He has, he doesn't have a console or anything like that, and he needed been buying a PC. He gave me this whole story, which a lot of people are in the same boat who are working class men who don't have that much money. Have to rob Peter to pay Paul just to be able to play a video game. Which is at that point in time you probably should be playing video games, but also like, I mean, you have to have a release in life. Um,
Right.
and this poor guy, man, he was in tears. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't afford another PC, and it was all due to them. Like, their recommended minimum and recommended specs they're just off. They're just off. They say that like this is what you need, this is what you need, but it runs fine on mine. It might not run fine on somebody else's, depending on the stat. Like, and then and his stuff runs fine now, but dude, he was like contemplating like what he's gonna do with this debt now that he can't play a video game. Which you most people would
Jeez.
say don't go into debt, but also most people would say, hey, I can pay this off in time as long as my game's playable and I enjoy it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like if you're willing to make like people are willing to go in debt to get a car, willing to go in debt to whatever, and like this is what this guy's thing. He really wanted that, and of course I'm biased as a City Skylines lover. So I'm like, dude, that fucking sucks. I feel you. He was just in tears, and so imagine that extrapolated to hundreds of thousands of people. Because
Right.
this game is huge worldwide, and
Yep.
half the people in America, let alone the rest of the world, would be struggling to get a PC that runs at what they recommend. It's just wild. Like where, like to be a fly on the wall. Where's the like? I want to meet the optimization team. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think it is. I think it's the same 30 people who's been working on the game since day one, and they're just doing the best they can with what they have, and they know how to make a game, they just don't know how to optimize a game, which is a complete different art in and of itself. Is going through code and figuring out, well, this semicolon is just misplaced. That right there solves all this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And people who don't code will, won't know, but there's like you can literally misplace a semicolon and a whole function will just work differently.
Mm-hmm.
So with all that being said, man, it's I'm ashamed of the way that they launched the game, but I am ecstatic at a lot of the changes and stuff they made. Again, it just begs the question why they didn't showcase that earlier. I just really, dude, they could solve all this issue right now and just put out a roadmap and say roadmap is subject to change.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they got to do, man. That would like if I was Maddie and I was and I was in charge of PR, the community, uh, dude, that's the first thing I'm going to do is get clearance that I can produce a roadmap. Like the roadmap can change, but people need to know what's happening. They're spending thousands of dollars to play a beloved game that's almost a decade old at this point. This franchise itself, City Skylines. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, people are enthralled with this game. Like City Skylines on YouTube, like older, like communities tend to die off. Like, even now, like Starfield community is like, they're not really popping to your recommended like they use like Skyrim used to or Fallout used to back in the day for years and years and years. Like every once in a while, I'll still get recommended a Fallout 4 video, and like the City Skylines is that way. It's a game to stand the test of time. Now they have a second one. It's like, guys, come on, we gotta get it together here. You know what I mean? We gotta
Yep.
get it together. And no shade, no shade at them at all. I love the game. I love everybody at Colossal Order as much as I'm actually banned from the City Skylines Discord server. So I don't know how much they love me, but for nothing I did, they sent me a thing saying that I doxed somebody in their server, which I never did. The screenshot they showed was from my server, and I just shared a publicly known email address of another YouTuber. That's all I did, which
Huh.
is not legal. Like if you publicly put your email address on your YouTube channel, well, that's a business inquiry YouTube link.
Right.
You can just copy and paste that anywhere. Like
Right.
yeah. So it was. I don't know. I don't know if there's somebody against me. I mean, I've had problems with other City Skylines YouTubers like where people were hard to get a hold of and I couldn't get a hold of. I used some of their content. They was like all upset about it and stuff like that. But of course, it's all under fair use. I've been around YouTube a long time. I know what I'm doing. I know what's acceptable, what's not. But even Toady, she copyright struck my video one time, and we had this whole anime arc about it. But push come to shove, I just knew that she was misusing the copyright terms to bully me and just not allow me to use it. But she could have just emailed me, and said, please don't do that. But also, she was like, you didn't ask for permission. But then I go to Discord and try to send her a friend's request, and it's all blocked. Like, you're not allowed to message her. So I get into her Discord server, try to message her, like, hey, what's going on? Like, with this, I would be glad to change it. Be very amicable. I'm not here to make no enemies. The video I even had about her was praising her for her content, the way she stylized it. And I used maybe 3 minutes out of a 12-minute video for context of what I was saying. So it's like,
Hmm.
it's it's just the whole thing is weird. So I don't know who has pull where, and of course it's very conspiratorial to be like, oh, it's a conspiracy against me. And I don't think that at all. It's just weird that all things happen. The thing is, I've used other people, content creators that I've had permission, haven't had permission, no problems, because they can look at the video and be like, oh, he used a 13-second clip for a reference he was talking about. That's fair use. You can't
Right.
if CNN can take the some sort of thing that's happening in the world that's from some independent journalist, never give them credit and post it on their site and be like, we're giving you news, and that's fair use.
Right.
It's like man. So that stuff kind of gets to me, and then it's like, I do nothing but just try to give my honest opinion and just try to be genuine. And of course, like I said, I don't think anything conspiratorial at all like that. But it's like, you get enough eggs, it makes a basket.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
don't know, dude. It's just so weird. But everybody else I've ever talked to is just like just so welcoming, and so like you, Diana, Bon, everybody is just so welcoming. I know
Yeah.
Bonbon's had some issues in the past too that he don't like to talk about, so I won't talk about them. But it's just it's weird, man. I feel like there's a lot of gatekeepers in the community, but I also feel like there's a lot of like wholehearted people who just want like the best quality experience in the community as well. And like I think I'm not sure where a lot of people fall at within that, but I just know that for the longest time, this community has been so wholesome and welcoming and opening. Like all the times I go to a small creator's channel and I see 3 comments and 3 likes, and it's Cities by Diana, Red Kool-Aid, and now I'm the third one. You know what I mean? Other content creators coming to support this new person, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is just amazing. It's so awesome. So you can imagine how taken aback I was for somebody to be like, uh, Harumph, I say, how dare you use 13 seconds of my footage, or how dare you use a screenshot that you didn't know I made, or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I
It,
see what you're saying for
it's so
sure.
weird, man. And then I think a lot of it was the launch of this game. Like it created such a dividing line, with it being review bombed from Steam, and I don't know. So I'll let you go off tangent and rant a little bit now. You're supposed to be the guest, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's a very interesting topic that you covered. Yeah, I don't know. And one thing that has kind of slowed me down a little bit on content creation is I'm not very in tune with the community, and I know certain content creators, City Skylines, like yourself, Jack Wool, which had a comment on one of my videos that not anybody that's got 600,000 subs, but somebody that I recognize and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I didn't feel too in tune with the community, not to the community's fault, but there is a lot of faces out there. Well, maybe not faces, but a lot of accounts out there
Mm-hmm.
that have a lot of opinions and a lot of people. And of course, when you start reading comments. If you read comments on anything in the world, you're going to go down a rabbit hole that generally you don't want to go down. And
Yeah.
like review bombing things, and we were seeing, like, I think right now on Steam it's still at mixed, but look at the games that get reviewed bombed because of something that the community of gamers have kind of like band together in a protest to take down a game. It's happened with it. Starfield had that issue. Cyberpunk 2077 is just now getting up to like mostly positive, but it was like overwhelmingly negative at one point. So we'll see how all that kind of plays out. But there's a lot of things that and you know this more than I do as far as the copywriting things and like that. Yeah, I was a little bit like, am I going to get in trouble for using these bits and pieces of these trailers that I was using for my video and stuff? And one thing that take away from my video, and you kind of talked about the guy calling you on the Discord, and people were asking me about upgrading, and after I got through like 400 of these comments, I started kind of being like, I I'm giving you my educated opinion slash guess on what this game's going to require. We don't know until the game comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Generally speaking, they said that this game was going to optimize cores and all that. So there was a lot of suggestions I made that were, I would say more so, the 90% of my suggestions were you should be fine. A lot of times I'd get a question like, hey, do you think that my Ryzen 9 5900X with my, G4 RTX 3060 will run this? Yes, it will run it. It should crush it. Now, it's not crushing it right now, but it will eventually once they work out these kinks. But like, the way games are made now, like you said, you run Starfield really well. Games now are generally optimized from all the way back to really like the beginning of the PlayStation 4 time period. The biggest changes in computer graphics and hardware and all that generally happen when the consoles change. So
Mm-hmm.
like when the PlayStation 6 is coming out, that's going to be about the time that a computer that is based on more of that PlayStation 4 type architecture is going to become it's going to be very difficult for that computer to run a lot of games. But the PlayStation 5 time period of systems is still going to be fine until the PlayStation 7 time period. That's how they're developing games now. There was a period in the mid 2000s where you could upgrade your computer, and basically within 3 years, it was almost obsolete.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I started PC gaming, there wasn't even a graphics card. It just ran off of it just ran off of the board and ran off the chip, off the processor.
Total of two
So
megabytes. You know.
yeah, yeah. Now you look back and you're like, wow, this thing required 4 megabytes of
Oh,
RAM
right
or
now I
whatever.
have in my hand a box discs for a computer for Fable: The Lost Chapters, and
Nice.
it says is online multiplayer require no online multiplayer requirements, but a play is still enabled. It says a 64 megabit shader capable 3D card.
Uh-oh.
That's it. 3 gigabyte for your hard drive, processor 1.4, the
That's nuts.
the
It's just nuts,
256
man.
RAM. That's it. That's it,
Yeah.
dude. My iPhone could play that game.
Right. Exactly. You've got more power in the palm of your hand and in your right pocket than those computers 20 years ago even dreamed about having. And yeah, it's crazy. Like I've really followed the whole industry for a long time, and just going through it, being a do it yourself PC builder. And by the way, anybody out there that's thought about building their own PC and going that route, it's not a difficult task, and generally will save you money. Now, there's companies that will say, "We'll build you any computer you want for $100." So you buy all the parts, and you also pay them $100. A lot of those companies charge you the parts at MSRP. So if those parts are discounted, it doesn't really matter if they're discounted. They might be buying them at the discount, but you're not paying for that discounted price.
Right.
So generally, if you build your own and you're watching all the many things you can watch to look for lowest prices and stuff, you can save some money. It's not that difficult. I did build a new PC here recently, and partly because I wanted to have the best experience I could have on City Skylines, and I was like, I'm drinking my own Kool-Aid, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but part of it too because I wanted something that could handle some other games that weren't really running at high frame rates, and I wanted them to run. I have an ultra wide monitor, so it's basically pixel wise, it's like a 4K. So it really pushed my old computer, and so I kind of wanted to upgrade for that, but it took me probably 3 days to build this computer, and I mean I was working those days,
Right.
regular shifts, so it wasn't like three whole 24-hour days, but um, it's not that difficult, and there's always, of course, YouTube to answer any questions you might have. So I had fun with it and load up the game, and I'm like, why are all the cars look like they have vanilla icing on them? I don't know, but yeah, I think those things will work out. They did put a thing on Steam. I'm sure you probably saw where it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's a roadmap, but they kind of covered a little bit of like, here's what we're wanting to do. Here's our, I think they called it like performance goals or whatever. And they said they wanted to get the game out, released on time, which is great. I mean, I guess put it this way, would you rather have the game delayed versus it coming out when it did come out with the problems it had? I think most people are probably going to answer that they'd rather it continue to be worked on. What we didn't expect was we basically got like an early access game, like
Yeah. Sold
you
to us
know,
as a AAA complete title.
right, right,
That's the
and
problem. That's the reason why they got review bombed, I feel like.
exactly.
Yeah.
And when you see those reviews, and they're mostly based on like the ones that were negative, for the most part, it was tied into performance. Now, like IGN, they said they had good performance, but they just didn't like the game in a lot of ways. Now, they did tie in a few performance factors to that review, but for the most part, it was all based on the lower scores were kind of based on the performance of it. But IGN gave the game a 6 out of 10. Now they're a little bit harder on games, but it's not a 6, man. Like that's pretty rough.
That was rough, dude. That was rough, man. I
I
mean,
just
there's actually a lot of games. They normally a lot of times they hit sevens on games. They try not to piss off the community stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like I feel like a lot of people went into their reviews with the information that Colossal Order had, pretty much botched the release. They're like, hey, we're gonna have to change the specs. The console's getting pushed back, and then of course, the game started on high settings. Why would they ever do that?
yes, which was so stupid.
And so you think about all these gaming journalists who are used to having easy mode walk them through the game, right, for their review,
Hmm.
and now they have to play this game, and it started out on high settings. They might not have the best computer, and then all that stuff happened. Like, beyond a lot of just like young kids who are just like, how dare they? There there's there's something to be said for hey, like, you asking us to review the game that you've delivered to us. You're not asking us to review the game that may be in 6 months from now.
Right.
So, I mean, with all that being said, I guess just to cap all this, what I'm trying to say is, did you see their City Skylines released a video talking about all the like they had like all the reviews kind of like popping up on screen. They had this video. They're like 9 out of 10 from this place, 8 out of 10 from this place, 7.5 out of 8 from this place. I just felt like that was such copium. They were really
Hmm.
coping really bad because they picked the only nines and eights and tens that ever existed.
Yep. Yep.
Which shout out to those publications. They got some free advertising there, but it's like that's
Yeah.
not the reality. And I keep harping that transparency, but that's not being transparent. What they should have done is like, here is our reviews. These reviews are not good, and we promise you they will be better in 6 months. We will invite
Hmm.
every journalist to replay this game in 6 months. Please give us a better. Like, there's just so many ways they can go about this that would quell all of the tomato throwing. Um,
Yeah.
I just like, and because the game is not bad, it's just really not, but it is. It's just early access. It just wasn't
Yep.
marketed as early access, and that's really where the crux of the situation is. And of course they I feel like they fan the flames with a week before launch. Hey, we're being transparent, or a few weeks before. Hey, we're pushing back consoles. Sorry. Oh, hey, we changed the specs on you again after everybody went out and bought new GPUs and computers. It's like
Hmm.
they are throwing gasoline on their own fire, and
Hmm.
I just can't help but wonder like what is happening there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
What is going on, man? Like where is the PR? And also, it's got to be hard to be a Swedish company with our Swedish company, right? Yeah, with right,
Yeah.
Swedish, yeah,
Yeah.
Swedish company, right? Yeah, yeah. Okay, it must be hard being a Swedish company with a primarily, uh, you know, American. Like, there's like the amount of Americans who play, like, they're global. Don't get me wrong. There's millions of people who play
Hmm.
globally, but the amount of Americans who play City Skylines is astronomical. It's
Hmm.
insane, dude. It's such an American game for it to be produced by a Swedish company, and they do a relatively decent job of all the translations and all this kind of stuff. Like if you watch a Japanese YouTuber making City Skylines content, it looks almost exact same. Where a lot of games
Hmm.
don't do that. A lot of games are they will they just change up a lot of things culturally because City Skylines doesn't do that, and I really like that. But dude, I don't know, man. It's just so hard to put it into words like how happy I am about the game, but how utterly disappointed I am about the way the game was handled. Because now everybody just thinks that how many people got turned off this game and will never come back.
Right.
It's got to be a
Yep.
lot, man. It's got to be a lot, and
Yeah.
it's just depressing.
Especially if they are diehard players of the first game and they are on the fence because the community will survive on the first game for God knows how long. It's not
Yeah.
going to go away. And if you're on the fence of, because, it's one of those things you're kind of going to go all in on something, you're going to go all in. Once you start playing City Skylines 2, it would be hard. Like, let's just say it's perfectly optimized, but it would be hard to go back to City Skylines 1 in some ways, just from the gameplay standpoint, just like when you play a new version of a game compared to you play the sequel compared to the original game, there's so
Yeah.
much, it's so much different. There's so many improvements. It's going to be hard for people once they get in that they're going to commit to it. And now these people are not going to want to uncommit from City Skylines 1, which is ultimately bad for Paradox.
100%.
Um, but I am I am cautiously optimistic. I hope it doesn't take too long. I know that. So when they usually release like a huge update on graphical patches and games, so like The Witcher 3 would be a good example.
Yeah.
They did like a next gen update, and that was to
Hmm.
support PlayStation 5, Xbox XS series. Um, I'm hoping that we're not going to be waiting until the console release to get that mega patch that's going to really smooth over things. But if they just chip away at things and they take care of one step at a time type situation, then hopefully that will make things a little bit easier, and then we can kind of tweak. God, there's what 50 graphical options on the game when you're going through the menu.
Hmm.
So hopefully between those little patches here or there and things that we can do, and of course there's already suggestions. They made suggestions. There's suggestions out there that on how to immediately get better frame rates, and I've tried them all, and they all worked. But I'm on a system that should not need to do any of that, and most people that have anywhere in the last graphic card wise, most new, I don't even want to say new. I mean, like basically 2018 graphics cards till now should have no problem with this game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll
That's what I
see.
thought with my RTX 580, which is completely upgraded to its most modern it could possibly be for its current generation of graphics card. It's like
Mhm.
it's like the game does run though. It does run, but it's definitely not optimized for my graphics card for sure. But it's also
Mhm.
like if my computer can run Starfield, can play Warzone, can
Right.
uh, what how
Right.
many semicolons did you misplace in your code? Like
Right.
what is happening here? And I've only developed a little bit. Like I've helped some people and I've done a little bit. Like most of my stuff is I'm all self taught. Like editing, thumbnail. Like I didn't go to school for any of that. I dropped out of college. I only got a couple. I only had a couple. Actually, and in high school, I did a lot. I was an advanced placement in high school. Not to toot my own horn, but I was just a brainiac, and they offered me to do college courses in high school. Of course, the thing was, they they sold it to you as hey, you're getting college credit courses in high school, so you should sign up for that because you're exceptionally gifted student, right? Okay, cool. Take this to your parents, have them sign it. Okay, we did that. Of course, we're just thinking that's what it is. Well, no, what we signed was, of course, I didn't sell it to my parents very well because I didn't read the contract, which probably should have. But also, what I understood a lot of that jargon at the time, I don't know. But my parents didn't read it anyways because they're Kentucky hillbillies. You know what I mean? They don't give a fuck. So it's like, okay, you're going to get college early. That's cool. Sign here, right? Well, come to find out, I had to pay for all that and I didn't know. I just thought they were giving me college credits that I could either optionally take to this school, or if I go to another school, then whatever, But no, I had signed that I would pay for these college courses that now I'm getting in high school. So now I'm doing high school and college all at the same fucking time, dude. And then I go to my community college, which is who did the partner program with me, and they're like, hey, you owe us this much money before you can even start your first term. I'm like,
What?
I don't have money. I'm 18. I work at Kmart, which doesn't even exist anymore. So it's like, what do you want from me? I could pay you $50 a month. What do you want from me? I can't. I didn't know that. I thought you guys were helping a brother out.
Right.
That didn't happen. So eventually, so what I did is I got a apprenticeship as a butcher, with a guy who was check this out. This old man, he was 60 something whenever he hired me on and was training me to be a butcher. His person who hired him on at like 16 started being a butcher in 1896
Wow.
and eventually retired in like 50, 54, something like that. It was like that time span. And he was a really old
Wow.
man too, which is really cool. And so like I have like some generation. I was like I thought that was really cool that I was getting trained by a guy who got trained by like he used to go out and just like wrangling the deer. He like or not the deer like the cattle. He do
Yeah.
the whole thing, from the rooter to the tutor. He would do the whole
Yeah.
thing. And like I've broken down some animals, but I've never had to like like from taking off the pelt. Like a deer is one thing, everybody hunts deer around here, but but other animals are just different. You know what I mean? Their anatomy is different inside. You had like you were almost a veterinarian. Like you could do surgery on an animal. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
where your stuff is at. Like bladders in a pig is a different location than a bladder in a deer. I didn't know that until he told me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and so, yeah, dude, that's what I did primarily for the longest time, and I ended up being managers of multiple butcher shops, and eventually running a deli and all that kind of stuff. But I had a friend who lived in Croatia. He made Fallout 4 stuff, and I become a patron of him, similar to you and Bonbon.
Hmm.
And the guy kind of just took. He made me a mod just out of chance. He made me a mod of his Discord server, so then I had special access to him and talked to him a little bit. And I was like, I really love to start making content. I've never produced a video ever. And he's just like, this is what you need to do. You need to do that. But then he was also like, you need to figure it out. I'm not going to walk you through it. You need to open up Sony Vegas, whatever software you're going to get, and
Hmm.
start working on something. Figure it out. Look up tutorials, you know. And I did everything he told me to do. And I started out with Jurassic World Evolution, the game. He was like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
if you want to make a channel and you want to be successful, start a channel, start speculating. You have good high quality thumbnails, you have good editing, decent editing. It doesn't have to be a whole lot at first. Once you get a big following, the editing gives you, people will watch your video longer and all that. So all that stuff helps later on. But you start out with a really good thumbnail, really good title, learn how to basically edit a video, and then start speculating. And the speculation doesn't have to mean anything. You know what I mean? It could be, um, the Giganotosaurus is 100% confirmed in Jurassic World Evolution 2. And then
Hmm.
you go into the game, you're like, look, see this silhouette of this dinosaur that they're not showing us? I think that's what it is. And then you're not really clickbaiting, but it's also like you don't fucking know what's going on. You're just
Right.
you're just spitballing here. It's like if everybody was in a group talking about, oh man, I wonder what the next Mario is going to be like, back in Nintendo days, right? Which obviously a
Right.
lot of people listening probably, I don't know, I don't know, my audience is like, I think a lot of City Skylines audiences caters to over 25, over 30.
Yep. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. So it's probably wrong for me to say a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people here probably do exactly understand everything we're everything we're saying, but a lot of people don't know anything like that. And like, so
Hmm.
that's kind of the style I approached, was like, hey, we're all a group together. I'm just the one who has the microphone talking. You guys have to listen, type of thing. I wish we could pass it around, like
Right.
that style of, and then it's turned into speculation. But now I think I've gotten myself into a rut, man, because my algorithm is all news and speculation. Now I'm doing gameplay nobody's watching. Like the die hard 3, 4, 500 people are. Don't get me wrong. Like
Hmm.
the people who matter do, but that doesn't make your AdSense payment.
Yeah, the hype is real in all games, and like a lot. I do this all the time when I hear about a game coming out. Gosh, for Starfield, I mean, I was excited about Starfield for like a year up to launch, and it was announced way before that.
Yeah,
And so the hype is real on games, and like you said, like something as simple as pinpointing and doing a little zoom action on a like a silhouette of something and being like, what exactly is this? Speculation, hype, the unknown. People
yeah,
are always want to know what the next big thing is, and the next big thing in the City Skylines world was City Skylines 2, which I think helped my video get some views. But I think that's also a thing that I might be in the same type of situation. I actually debated on, and I might still do this. I was thinking about maybe continuing making videos about future games that are coming up, that kind of covering what the recommendations are going to be on those games, similar to what I did on these videos. Now, I don't know how much of the extra tomfoolery I could do per video, but um, keeping them relatively short, going over those things, and because there's a lot of people that they there's a lot of people out there that don't even know what their computer has in it. They don't know what
yeah,
system they're running. There's a lot of people that do, and a lot of people jump right to those recommendations to see like what a game takes, and they're getting City Skylines recommending the 3080 the second time around, the RTX 3080 or AMD equivalent, which they did change to a 6800 XT, but you know, that is now starting to become a little bit more common in games. And those recommendations are starting to go up. And where 16 gigabytes of RAM was such a standard for, gosh, it's been like a standard for basically 10 years.
yeah. So mine's sitting at right
And
now.
yeah, and now that's about to be 32.
It's insane,
It's
dude.
gonna happen sooner or later. And so, in us in the video editing world, that's a lot of us already have that amount of RAM, and it helps in the rendering processes and all the things that go into video editing. But um, you didn't miss much from dropping out of college, by the way. I'm just gonna let
Oh,
you
I
know.
believe me.
I
I
mean, like,
believe me. I know. I've got people right now, my friends of mine, who are like, I spent 10 years in college and I'm making the amount of money you're making, Shawn.
yeah, I I enjoyed my 6 year span of a 4 year degree, but whatever. Um, so Murray State University, by the way.
Hey, Murray. Yeah, yeah. I had a cousin go to Murray.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I do. I am looking forward to the next phase in the content on my channel, and I've got a lot of ideas. You talked a little bit about being a butcher and all that, and I have been in retail since the day I turned 16 years old. I started the first day I was legally eligible to work. I was working in retail, and so starting today, basically through when Santa's fat ass comes down the chimney, I am going to be very busy. But this is going to allow me time to clear my mind, brainstorm, and all that kind of stuff. For right now, I might keep doing these like live streams just for fun because honestly, I'm not like looking to do too much with those, but I love when even if it's just one person gets on there and just like kind of chats with me, like you said, passing the microphone around. I just like kind of the community and communicating with other people and stuff like that, which is why I am appreciative of being on the podcast.
Right. No, I appreciate you having you, man. That's what that was actually going to be my last question is what we was going to do going forward now that your big video blew up. It was about City Skylines, but really more about just the settings of a computer and what goes into a computer, the hardware, the software, and all that kind of stuff. And so if you're really struggling with what you should do, and you know that if you make a City Skylines 2 gameplay video, which I would recommend at least try to do, but if you do that and the game gets another 200-300 views, something like the video gets another 200-300 views, and you're like, oh man, shucks, it sucks. What I would recommend, I would go back to that video that you had, the big video you have, and look at all the people who like. There's people who watch that video, and then in the analytics, it'll show you. I can't remember exactly where it's at, but it'll show you channels that your subscribers also watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you go through your subscribers and you just make a T chart and then tally, okay, this person watches a lot of other City Skylines content. This person watches a lot of other, what is it, Maddie's Tech Tips, that type of stuff, right? And
Right.
and just tally up who like which channels people are watching more of. Is it City Skylines channels or is it, gaming rig type channels or just
Right.
whatever, and then tally that up, and then that would give you your answer of what style of videos you should be making, because that's not a
Yeah.
bad idea to be like, hey, this video blew up, maybe I can continue to just kind of like press on this issue of different gaming rigs, and hey, this is what it'll take to run Starfield, hey, this is what it'll take to run Diablo 4,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, or whatever the situation may be. That's
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not really a bad idea to lean in on that.
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
because I mean, and the good thing about that video was like it wasn't. It was very time consuming from an editing standpoint, but it wasn't time consuming to get the material I needed because I was just recording dev diary highlights and screenshots and things of that nature. Um, so it was easier to capture that versus when you're making a City Skylines video, man, there's so much wasted footage. I don't know about you,
oh
but
dude, hours.
yeah. And it's like you record it and then you go back and you put it on your timeline or whatever, your editing software, and you're kind of like, I've got like an hour here and I need to make a 20-minute video.
Yeah,
So lots of chopping up, but that's part of the fun. And you kind of learn as you go, like different ways to kind of make it your own. And I'm also very like, I do watch a handful of random City Skyline stuff on YouTube, but for the most part, and one thing that the reason my videos were the way they were back when I was making like the downtown series and all that is just because I was doing it completely out of my own creation and I was not basing it on anything. So, I discovered Bon through tutorials, and then like some of the other big names I just discovered from recommendations from watching those tutorials. Might have watched some of those, but like other than saying I'm not a big tea drinker, there's not really any references to any other City Skyline channels. So, but I really did enjoy that video. I'm going to use that advice. That's not bad advice to kind of look into that and see because it's an unbelievable amount of information in YouTube Studio that you can dig through. That's for sure.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's like if a lot of those people, uh, other channels they watch the City Skylines stuff, well then people who watch City Skylines wanted to know what it would take to run that video, run their game,
Right.
on their. But now, if there's just as many, if not more, people who just happen to had gotten some wind of the City Skylines stuff and were like, oh well, hey, this came across my stuff. I'm really into this tech stuff. Let's see what this guy has to say. If there's a lot more of that, dude, you might be able to like take that time to make a really highly edited video like once a month for any specific game, like just do the research on whatever the next game is coming out and be like, hey, this is,
Hmm.
and this is what I think and if you guys don't think I'm just joshing, look, this, this video here proves that I know what I'm talking about. People understand what, like you could really lean hard in on that. I just hope that it is that way for you because, dude, that would be amazing if you can just start tomorrow making 10, 20, 30,000 views a video.
Yeah,
Like,
that would be unbelievable. And yeah, like I said, I was completely blown away and very humbled by it, and like I appreciated everybody's views and everything of it, and like I don't know, it was cool, especially since I was at that point where I was like, well, I'm gonna make this, and whatever happens happens, and then 500 views, that was disappointing for Bon Bon, exciting for me, and the next thing you know, it's like the next day it was like almost to 2,000, and I was like, oh my god, what is
yeah, and
happening,
it
you
started
know? And
snowballing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was pretty cool, and yeah, I had a great time making that video and forcing my wife to be a part of it, and so yeah, it
Yeah.
was good. It was
She
a
looked
good
like a good
time.
sport.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she is. She is.
But before we hop off here, I do want to say just be wary, man, because somebody who's been around the block a lot on YouTube. I've had, like I said, I've had multiple channels. I had a political channel I mentioned where I at one point had 40,000 subscribers, I think, and it was just a political channel around Andrew Yang, if you remember him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he was on the Joe Rogan Experience. Nobody was paying no attention to him, but he had millions and millions of views on the Joe Rogan Experience. So I'm like, well, me knowing YouTube, like I wasn't really necessarily a fan of his politics too much, but I was a fan of the YouTube algorithm. So
Yeah.
I knew that I could make that thing pop. And dude, I had a video blow up over 1 million views,
Wow.
and dude, like it is indescribable. Well, it's not indescribable. I can describe it. You could feel it. You've been there. You're with that 30,000 like or 70,000 video. Like the feeling you have. But
Hmm.
dude, but when that stuff eventually fades and you can't recapture that, you can't chase that dragon again. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That is rough. So just stay attuned to your mental health. You know what I mean? Because
Right. Yeah,
dude,
I do.
I was in a bad. Once that channel failed and Andrew Yang sold out to CNN and became a contributor to drop out, of the race, which
Hmm.
was so somebody who screams so much about anti-corruption, that was the most corrupt thing he could do. So I'm sitting here, like, left holding the ball on my channel, like, sorry guys, he wasn't who he said he was, like, well,
Right.
so then I just stopped making. I could transition to news, but dude, politics is just so scummy, man. And I've seen the caucuses in Iowa. I've literally with my own eyes seen them, skew results. Like we're talking, if you know what a caucus is, like everybody's in a room and yay or nay.
Right.
And we as Andrew Yang people went over to Bernie Sanders' side to help him win his, because we're not going to, like, this guy has some of the same values we have. We don't necessarily hate him. We just don't want the super corrupt people to be in power, right? So we're
Mm.
gonna go over there and rally with him and say yay. So this auditorium, it was an easy 70% Bernie Sanders auditorium, easy. The other person was Amy Klobuchar, if you remember her. So
Yeah.
very very forgettable person, but
Hmm.
they did a coin flip, and then he mistakenly, it was very obvious, mistakenly didn't catch the coin. Oh, we have to redo it. He flips it, grabs it in his hand, sticks his thumb inside of his hand, feels it to see if it's on heads or tails, flips it over in his hand. It's on camera. I have it on my channel. It's on camera on my other channel. Flips the coin over and says, "Klobuchar's the winner." Camera pans around to everybody in a Bernie Sanders shirt, and the votes are yay or nay. So it's
Oh
like
my
they
god.
try to do this whole thing. Well, the votes are very very close, so now we have to flip a coin. Everybody get ready. I got to flip a coin. There's literally 40 people for Amy Klobuchar and 160 for Bernie Sanders. So I've seen politics. I don't ever recommend getting into, but dude, like
Yeah.
I really, if you really should do just a little bit of research on the algorithm, because or it's take my advice, because you might find yourself a really cool niche there. That would be really amazing to see if you capitalize on that. If that's the case for your algorithm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be interesting to see. I definitely am gonna definitely continue to kind of look into it and weigh my options. Like I said, I play a ton of games, so there's other games that I definitely put more time in overall, more competitive games and stuff. But yeah, there's so many
Do
things
you
to
play a
do, and
Warzone or Counter Strike or anything like that?
So I'm top 1% on Overwatch 2 on assist, and top I'm like top 5% on hours played with two heroes, and it's embarrassing. I didn't realize that there were so many websites that kept up with stats, and when I discovered that there was, and I started looking at my stats, I was like, "Oh my god, I've never been top anything in any competitive
When
game."
you didn't have to scroll at all, and you're just right there.
Right, and but yeah, man, I've been playing. Gosh, I've been playing games like that forever, all the way back to like, I mean, the original Doom was probably the first one. We'd have basically like LAN parties to play deathmatch on there,
Yeah, man.
um, but yeah, I mean, I love those type of games. Now, I'm not very good at the battle royale games. I got into Apex Legends. Got into that a little bit. I enjoyed that. I'm not real big on games that basically, if you're not going to team speak, you're not going to be successful because I've got everything I need to team speak, but a lot of times after work, I'm not wanting to necessarily talk to 12-year-olds or
Yeah,
you're
you just
kicking my
want to
ass.
pop some heads, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
so
you. I feel you.
but
Well,
yeah, large variety of games I like.
well, man, if you ever get into Counter Strike something like that, let me know, man, because I play a lot of Counter Strike. Like
Cool, yeah. What
as
do you think
much
of Counter
as
Strike 2, real quick? What do you think of the
I
second one?
mean, dude, it's exactly the same, but so much different.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the same, but so much different. It's like
Yeah.
it's all the same maps, all the same guns, all the same operators, all the same skins. Everything has just been pretty much just made into like the new, like it is. It's just been upscaled into the new generation. It's pretty much what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I don't like about Counter Strike is the fucking fact they took away Cobblestone. That's my favorite map. They took away my favorite map, man. Like I
Oh,
was a
that's a
demon on
bummer.
that map. Like I knew the map so well. I knew all the angles. I knew where everybody would peek and pop, and I would just sit there and with my op and just snipe
Yep.
everybody, dude. And oh dude, I miss that map so much. Now I've been playing a lot of Vertigo, that map. But yeah, I don't know, dude. But yeah, if you ever get into it, man, I'm on that game. As much as I play City Skylines 2, I'm on that game.
Yeah.
So if that lets you know
Well,
anything.
I actually have been thinking about getting because I've never played Counter Strike. I've played so I had Half Life 2, which I think was kind of based off that engine,
Hmm.
and played a lot of that, but I never played Counter Strike. But like every time I see it, and I know there's such a like esport community for it, and like using the skills that I have on shooters, like I want to see how I compare against like legit players, which of course obviously I'd have to get good at that game, but like on Overwatch, I would notice that I would always be like top kills and stuff like that, and I would just think, well, whatever. I didn't realize that I was actually dominating a lot of people. I mean, I'm not like the best or something like that, but I'm just saying like it's sometimes you're really good at game. Me and my buddy, we used to play like Mortal Kombat on PlayStation 3 until our
Yeah.
thumbs were numb. And like we were so good we could hit random select and we could just be really good with every single character. But that was like the days before competitive games online. So I always tell them like, man, just imagine if we lived in like the Twitch era
Dude.
during that time period, man. But I don't know, it's
Dude,
crazy, crazy world.
I feel like I missed my window on YouTube. Like I've for the last quite a few years I've been making a lot of different channels, a lot of different I've had a lot of successes, a lot of failures and stuff like that, trial and error, blah blah blah. But I
Hmm.
feel like, man, if I did this as a kid in 2000, like a young adult in 2008, you know what I mean? Like right when YouTube was popping off, I would literally be in Markiplier's place or Jacksepticeye's place right now. Because a lot of those people just
Right.
skyrocketed just because there was nobody else on YouTube.
Hmm.
There was no algorithmic tricks. There was like, I'm just playing this game.
Right.
Like PewDiePie, like still some of his most highest viewed videos before he ever got big were just him screaming into a mic.
Hmm.
And it's like, man, of course that ship is so simple. But oh man, if I knew now what I knew then, or however that phrase goes, if I knew then what I know now, yeah. So, but
Changed a
anyways,
lot of things.
man, I appreciate you being on here. I really do. It's been a
Yeah,
long time
man.
coming.
It was a
So
lot of fun.
Yeah,
A
man.
lot of fun. I appreciate you having me.
Well, I'd like to have you and Bonbon on as a group podcast sometime. That'd be cool.
I could tell you how I have to carry him in Rocket League.
I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask who's better. I was gonna ask who's better.
He's
I
way
refrained.
better. He's way better.
You're
But
no, you're being humble. Stop.
I say it's because he's European. Like soccer's in his blood. So.
Yeah, but there's NASCAR aspect of it too. Come on.
That's true. That should balance out.
That shit.
That's
It's
funny.
like it's if NASCAR and soccer married, man. Oh well. For everybody listening, I hope you guys like the podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I haven't been posting a lot, but views are down. It kind of dopamine, serotonin, as we talked about earlier. Stuff sucks sometimes. Hopefully they get better. I appreciate this old gamer. I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you.
But everybody else, y'all can piss off.
2 to the 1, from the 1 to the 3. I like good pussy and I like good trees. Smoke so much weed you wouldn't believe, and I get more ass than a toilet seat. 3 to the 1, from the 1 to the 3. I met a bad bitch last night in the D. Let me tell you how I made her leave with me. Conversation and Hennessy. I've been to the motherfucking mountaintop.